Heartwarming journey. Abandoned elderly black couple discovers incredible inheritance after 30 years of service. The sun blazed down on the small southern town, casting a golden glow over the Johnsons' diner, where Mr. and Mrs. Johnson had forged their lives over 3 decades. Inside, the air was thick with the aroma of cornbread and fried chicken, the comforting sound of laughter blending with the sizzle of the grill. As regulars came through the door, they were greeted with heartfelt joy. "Welcome back." That simple phrase encapsulated a lifetime of love and service, the very essence of hope in a community that had weathered its share of storms. On this particular day, however, everything changed. The bell chimed above the door, and in walked their estranged son, Mark. He looked different, older, a mixture of nervousness and excitement playing across his face. Mr. Johnson's heart raced as old memories rushed back. They had missed him, longed for him, spent sleepless nights worrying, wondering if he would ever return. The atmosphere shifted, a mix of hope and uncertainty thickening the air. "Mom, Dad!" Mark's voice trembled as he spoke. "I have something huge to share." With those words, he unfolded a story of forgotten riches tied to a distant relative they never even knew existed. Suddenly, their family's name was tied to a fortune waiting miles away, a life they never dreamed they could have. His revelation filled the diner with shock and excitement. The tables buzzed with chatter. As friends and patrons gathered around, they laughed and shared stories of dreams that could come true. For the first time in years, possibility bloomed in the air, shining like sunbeams on fresh morning dew. But with joy came resentment. Other business owners eyed the Johnsons with jealousy, whispers of competition growing louder. The bond between the people had always seemed so strong, yet this new twist was testing its seams. Maybe we could finally expand. Mrs. Johnson's eyes sparkled with hope anew. But she also felt the weight of her heart. Could their relationship with Mark truly heal, or were they opening doors best left closed? The uncertainty gripped her chest with a tightness she hadn't felt in years. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue that night. As they sat on the diner's creaky porch swing, they started dreaming out loud. They envisioned a new dining room, a community kitchen, a place where families could gather as one. Yet, the storm rolled in uninvited, dark clouds churning above them. It swept through the town with such ferocity, tearing apart the diner's peaceful existence. The windows rattled. The sign that read, "Welcome," was thrown to the ground. The morning after, as the Johnsons stood in the wreckage of their beloved diner, they exchanged glances. Their true legacy wasn't gold nor riches. It was the laughter, kindness, and love they had served to each patron who walked through their door. How could they rise from this? Their hearts ached as they contemplated rebuilding not just a building, but their dreams. In the stillness, a thought sparked within Mrs. Johnson, one that could weave their community back together, not just for them, but for everyone. As hope flickered in their eyes, Mark was no longer just their son. He was a crucial piece of their future. The storm had taken much, but in its wake, a new determination surged, one that could lift them higher than fortune ever could. What weight would love carry as they faced this new journey together? The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a soft light over the rubble of Johnson's diner. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson stood hand in hand, their hearts heavy, but their spirits ignited. Today wasn't just about loss. It was about rebirth and redefining their purpose. "I can't believe this happened," Mr. Johnson said, his voice thick with emotion. He surveyed the wreckage, But unlike yesterday, he could feel a different energy stirring within him. But maybe it's time we make this place better than it ever was. Mrs. Johnson nodded, her eyes sparkling with a fire that hadn't flickered in years. We've got so many ideas. We can incorporate a community garden, maybe even host cooking classes, bring everyone back together. Mark, who had been quietly contemplating his parents' resolve, stepped forward. I can help with that. We can set up a fundraiser, reach out to people who have been touched by this diner over the years. It won't just be about us anymore. It'll be about our whole community. As they shared brainstorming sessions in the coming days, the diner's spirit began to rekindle. Discussions became plans, and plans turned into actions. They put up signs around town announcing their initiative to rebuild as a community space. Soon, a group of customers from the diner, along with other townsfolk, began to rally. With every volunteer who showed up to help, tears of gratitude brimmed in Mrs. Johnson's eyes. Memories of laughter and joy surged through her, and she felt her heart lift. Standing there, surrounded by the very people they'd fed and nurtured for years, she realized the love they had given was being returned to them in vibrant colors. Each day brought new energy. The townsfolk pitched in with supplies and labor. Some brought food to keep the workers fueled. Others brought tools to start the restoration. Whether it was hammering nails, painting walls, or serving up smiles, everyone contributed. As the walls of the diner were slowly reconstructed, the rekindled warmth of togetherness wrapped around them like a comforting quilt. But lurking beneath the surface, tensions remained. Whispers among the other business owners grew louder. They felt threatened by the burgeoning connections forming around the diner. They questioned the Johnsons' motives. What about competition? They wondered, even as they unleashed subtle attempts to undermine their efforts. One night, after a long day of work, Mrs. Johnson found Mark lost in thought. She sat beside him, her heart heavy with concern. What is wrong, son? I don't know, Mom. I want to do right by you and Dad, but it feels like, what if we're not welcome? What if all this work goes to waste? He looked into the distance with worry shadowing his eyes. She thought for a moment, searching her own heart for reassurance. We're not just rebuilding a diner, Mark. We're reclaiming our legacy. It's about loving back the community that loved us, standing strong no matter what. In that moment, clarity washed over Mark. He squeezed his mother's hand tightly, the weight of doubt diminishing. As they looked towards the set sun, it painted the sky in hues of hope, a vivid promise of brighter days ahead. Mr. Johnson, joining them on the porch, gazed at the horizon. No matter what happens, this is our family, and we're going to nurture it together. Just then, a shout broke the calm of twilight. Hey! We need you to come here. It was one of the volunteers, waving them towards the diner. The excitement bubbled over as they gathered, but in the back of their minds, one question lingered. What was happening that could change everything once again? They hurried towards the diner, anxiety mingling with anticipation. The sun had dipped lower, leaving warm pinks and oranges in its wake. Each step felt like a heartbeat pulsing through the air, the excitement infectious among the volunteers. As they approached the diner, they could hear a ruckus. Laughter and chatter surrounded a small group gathered outside. Curiosity quickened their pace. What could be causing such a stir? Is everything okay? Mr. Johnson called out, his voice striding over the noises. Look at this! One of the volunteers shouted, holding up a wooden box that had been covered in dust and grime. Its edges had been adorned with simple carvings, aged yet beautiful. The crowd hushed as they gathered around. Mark stepped forward, his heart racing. What is it? We found it under some old floorboards, another volunteer said, eyes wide with surprise. We thought you'd want to see it right away. With trembling hands, Mr. Johnson took the box. As he pried it open, a little cloud of dust puffed into the air, the smell of nostalgia wafting out. Inside lay a collection of faded photographs, letters tied together with twine, and an antique key nestled in the corner. Mrs. Johnson leaned closer, her heart leaping at the sight of the photographs. These they're from when we first opened the diner. She pointed at an image of a young couple standing proudly in front of the diner, their smiles radiating joy. Mark picked up one of the letters, and as he unfolded it, the room felt charged with tension. "What does it say, Mark?" Mrs. Johnson asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's from a former owner," he began, his brow furrowing in concentration. They had plans for this diner, to expand and to create a space for community gatherings. They wanted it to be a hub for all those who lived here. Their hearts began to race as they realized this was more than just a collection of memories. This was a chance and opportunity to build on the foundations already laid down. "What about the key?" Mr. Johnson asked, picking it up carefully. Mark turned it over in his hands, feeling its weight. "Maybe it opens a storage room or a basement." His voice trailed off as he considered what might be hidden behind a door long forgotten. Suddenly, a young girl stepped forward, her eyes bright with hope. "Can we find out? Let us look." Her eagerness spread like wildfire, igniting a fervor among the other volunteers. They chattered excitedly and began searching for possible locks where the key might fit. Mrs. Johnson, overwhelmed with emotion, shared a look with her husband. It felt like fate had drawn them another step closer to reclaiming not just the diner, but its essential heartbeat connected to the town. It was then that a narrow doorway at the back of the diner caught their eye, half hidden behind a stack of old panels. The volunteers pushed forward, clearing the debris. Mark felt a stir of excitement as he knelt before the door, the key trembling in his hand. "Here goes nothing," he said, inserting it into the lock. A soft click echoed in the stillness, and all eyes were glued to the door as it creaked open. Inside was a dimly lit space, cluttered but bursting with potential. Canned goods, old decorations, and community artifacts lined the walls, things that told stories of long-forgotten gatherings. Hope swelled in their chests. As they began to sift through the contents, a renewed sense of purpose filled the room. They were no longer just rebuilding, they were tapping into a rich legacy, one that intertwined their future with the community's past. But deep in the shadows of the unopened crates, an unexpected discovery caught Mark's eye, a small note that could change everything. He reached for it, heart racing as he wondered what new truth might unfold. What if the past hadn't just come back to them? What if it held the key to their dreams? Mark felt the weight of the note in his hand, its edges frayed and yellowed with age. All around him, the chatter of the other volunteers faded into a soft hum as he unfolded it, trying to grasp the significance of what he held. The words, though slightly faded, were still clear enough to spark a flame of hope. "To whoever finds this," the note began, "this diner has always been more than a place to eat. It was a refuge, a meeting ground, and a home for many. We poured our hearts into it, hoping it would serve this community for generations. The key, I believe, opens the best part of this diner, the heart." A hush fell over the room. Mark glanced up, catching Mrs. Johnson's eye. She was holding her breath, the belief lighting up her features. "What do you think it means?" she finally asked, her voice trembling. Mark continued reading. "Within these walls lies a hidden treasure, something that will help fulfill our dreams for this place. Follow the signs, trust your instincts, and you'll discover the essence of community." Mrs. Johnson clasped her hands together, wide-eyed. This is incredible. It's like they're guiding us." "Follow the signs," Mark repeated, running the phrase through his mind. A thrill ran down his spine. What if there's more to uncover? What if there's a way to truly bring the diner back to life? Excitement rippled through the group once again as they shared glances filled with determination. "Let us search," someone shouted, and the energy in the room shifted, each person fueled by a collective sense of purpose. With renewed vigor, the volunteers scattered into different corners of the room, inspecting every shelf, crate, and forgotten corner as they searched for clues. Amidst the rummaging, an elderly gentleman named Mr. Williams came across something odd tucked behind a pile of dusty boxes. It was a crumpled drawing, almost cartoonish in its style, but vibrant with color. As Mark approached, he noticed it was a map. The drawing illustrated various sections of the diner, with an exaggerated X marking a spot expected to be important. "Look at this," Mr. Williams exclaimed, his voice brimming with intrigue. "It seems to point to something. I think it's under the diner." The room buzzed with excitement. Mark felt a bolt of electricity surge through him. "We need to check. What if that S where the treasure is hiding? Come on, we can do this together," Mrs. Johnson exclaimed, rallying everyone. "This place has a spirit, and today we're bringing it back." With the map in hand, they began plotting their next steps. Mark couldn't help but marvel at how a simple wooden box unearthed the very heartbeat of their community. Memories, dreams, aspirations all wrapped tightly in history and ready to unveil to a new generation. They hurried outside, energy building as they gathered around the old wooden porch. "Let's move what we need to," Mark said. "If it's what I think it is, it's going to take all of us." As they put their hands to work lifting the floor panels, Mark felt the pulse of possibility in the air. But just as they started revealing the dusty underbelly of their beloved diner, a faint, haunting sound echoed from below, drawing everyone's attention. A low, melodic hum rose up through the earth, shaking them to their core. "What is that?" someone whispered, shivers running down their spines. Mark's heart quickened. He locked eyes with Mrs. Johnson, their thoughts uniting in unanswered questions. What were they about to discover? And was it truly as magical as the legacy waiting to be brought back to life? They stood still, caught between anticipation and fear, as the mysterious hum resonated louder, beckoning them closer. Mark took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. The sound vibrated through the ground beneath him, growing stronger and echoing in his chest. The others were silent, eyes wide, straining to hear the source of the hum. It felt as if the diner itself was alive, speaking to them in a language of memories and dreams. "Did you all hear that?" Mr. Williams asked, breaking the stillness. His voice was thick with awe. "Yes, it's incredible," Mark replied, unable to hide his excitement. "It's like the diner wants us to discover something." The layer of dust they had moved aside seemed to shimmer under the warm afternoon light, beckoning them forward. Mark knelt down, brushing his fingers over the cooler, darker wood that lay beneath the diner's surface. He could feel the pulse of something hidden, something waiting to be uncovered. "Let us keep going," Mrs. Johnson urged, her voice steady despite the uncertainty dancing in her eyes. "Whatever that sound is, it's important." With renewed determination, they began to lift more panels, feeling the heft of the wood as they pried it loose. Each splintered piece echoed louder against the floor as it plopped onto the ground, creating a rhythm that mirrored the hum below. Soon the space began to look like a mini excavation site, a small pile of wooden panels stacked neatly to the side. Then, they found it. Mark's hands went numb as he brushed away centuries of grime, revealing a small, ornate box nestled in a hollow beneath the diner. The hum intensified, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Everyone held their breath as he reached down, feeling the cool metal latch against his fingers. "Is it locked?" someone asked, the tone a mixture of fear and excitement. Mark hesitated for a moment. Let us see pushing the latch. He linked his hands around the box and pulled. It popped open with a soft click that echoed like a whisper, leaving a lingering silence in the air. Inside lay a collection of old photographs, letters tied with frayed ribbons, and pieces of jewelry that glinted dimly in the low light. As he carefully sifted through them, he felt that same electric sensation coursing through him, a promise of something more profound than just objects. "Look at this," he exclaimed, holding up a black and white photo of a group of people gathered at the diner, laughing, sharing meals, and creating memories. "These are the ancestors of our community." Mark's voice trembled, filled with emotion. The faces were familiar. They were the very people whose stories resonated through the walls of the diner. A sense of connection washed over him, a realization that the diner was more than just a building. It was the heart of their legacy. Mark rummaged through the letters, reading snippets aloud. They talked about love, loss, hopes, and dreams, all tied to the diner and its role in nurturing the community. Each word was a thread, weaving stories of resilience and belonging, igniting a newfound passion in everyone present. Every decision they made, every hope they had, "It's all part of us now," Mark said, looking at the group. "We can continue this legacy." As they gathered around him, sharing different pieces and reading snippets from the letters, another sense of reality dawned. The hum had stopped. A profound hush fell across the group, followed by a mix of disbelief and hope hanging in the air. "I can't believe this is happening," Mrs. Johnson murmured, clutching a letter tightly against her chest, tears glistening in her eyes. Mark shared her emotions, feeling the weight of history mingled with the excitement of a future they could build. But in the silence, another question loomed, more pressing than the treasure they discovered. How could they honor these voices now in the 21st century? And what more secrets lay buried beneath the diner? With the sunlight beginning to set, casting long shadows around them, the air filled once more with anticipation as they exchanged glances, the next step awaiting them like a blank canvas. The legacy of the diner was only just beginning to unfold. Mark felt as if time stood still. The photos, letters, and jewelry were more than just objects. They were portals to the past, each one dripping with stories begging to be told. Everyone in the diner leaned closer, their faces lit by the soft glow of fading sunlight filtering through the diner's windows. "Look at this ring." Mrs. Johnson's voice broke the silence. She held up a beautifully crafted silver ring, its surface etched with delicate designs. "This must have belonged to someone special." The others nodded in agreement, their hearts swelling with empathy for the people who had once occupied this space. They could almost hear the laughter from years ago, feel the warmth of the shared meals, and see the friendships formed within these walls. As they rummaged, unearthed memories began to unravel, sparking old tales. Mr. Williams shared how his grandparents met in this very diner, how they had written letters to each other when separated by World War II. Everyone hung on his words, the rich emotions weaving them tighter together. "There was magic here," he said, eyes glistening, "and it's up to us to revive it. Can you imagine? Bringing this place back to life." Mark felt a wave of determination surge within him. "We should create a community event. A day to celebrate the stories of those who came before us. We could read these letters, show the photos, and invite everyone to share their memories." Mrs. Johnson wiped her tears and smiled. "That's brilliant, Mark. We could even restore the diner a little, make it a real gathering place again." Heads nodded. Excitement rippled like electricity through the group. The thought of uniting their community through shared heritage lifted their spirits. This would be the beginning of a revival, a chance to knit their past with their present. But as discussions grew animated, Mark noticed something. A different sound emanated from the box, a low whisper threaded through the air, almost pulling at him. He leaned closer, trying to catch the words. A chill ran down his spine. Were those whispers connected to the letters? What secrets did they still hold? Suddenly, one photograph slipped from his fingers and fluttered to the floor. It wasn't he like the others. It was a color image, striking and vibrant. He picked it up, studying it closely. It depicted a small gathering outside the diner. In the center stood a woman with an all-too-familiar face. "Wait a minute," Mark stared. "This can't be, it looks just like you," Mrs. Johnson exclaimed, leaning in closer. Mark's heart raced. But this woman, she looks exactly like my grandmother. Confusion swirled within him. The air felt thick with tension, and the hum began to build again, as if responding to the revelation. Who was she? Someone asked, their voice sharp with curiosity. Mark turned to the others, his heart pounding. I don't know, but I think there's more to her story. Just then, the last rays of sun disappeared behind the diner, plunging them into a cocoon of twilight. A shared silence enveloped them, heavy with expectation. Could it be that the legacy of the diner was intertwined with his own family's history? What truths waited to unfold as they ventured deeper into this discovery? The sound of his own breathing filled the space as anticipation hung thick in the air. The journey had just begun, and Mark knew they had to dig deeper, both into the legacy of the diner and into the shadows of his family's past. What else were they about to uncover together? The diner felt different now. The flickering overhead lights cast shadows that seemed to dance in rhythm with Mark's racing heart. As the whisper seemed to echo around him, he had a sudden sense of urgency. He had to learn more about this woman, this mysterious connection to his family that lay buried in the diner's heart. With a deep breath, he turned to face his friends. What if we start looking at the history of this place? There might be old records or stories we can find that tie into this photograph. His voice had a newfound strength, a spark of leadership igniting within him. Mrs. Johnson nodded eagerly. Absolutely. There's a library down the street that has archives about the town. They may have old newspapers or even history books that mention the diner. Mark felt a swell of hope. If they could uncover the stories buried beneath the layers of time, perhaps they could not only honor the past, but also illuminate the path forward for their community. Let us go tomorrow, said Mr. Williams. We can split into teams. While some of us check the archives, others can knock on doors, talk to some of the older residents. They might know something. The energy surged again, stronger than before. Mark could see their collective hope start to take shape, much like the diner itself was starting to feel alive with purpose. But the photograph still weighed heavily in his hands. As they planned their next steps, Mark kept glancing at the image of the woman. Her smile was radiant, yet there was something profound behind her eyes. He felt an almost magnetic pull to her, as if she were gently urging him to unravel the mystery. And just then, Mrs. Johnson reached over and placed a hand on his shoulder. Mark, it's possible that this woman had a life here that deserves to be remembered. Your quest is about more than the diner, it's about connecting generations. Her words hit Mark like a warm rush. He nodded, although a knot of uncertainty remained in his stomach. What if he uncovered something painful or complicated? But pushing aside the doubt, he clenched his fist, feeling a resolute determination blossoming deep inside him. As they finalized their plans, Mark couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The diner, once just a backdrop in his life, now felt like a living entity breathing stories through its cracked walls. Guys, he said suddenly, voice steady, what if some stories should stay buried? What if we find something that changes everything for us? Mr. Williams looked thoughtful. Sometimes the things we fear the most are the things that set us free, he replied, glancing around to the others, each one lost in their thoughts but united in purpose. With that, Mark took another look at the photograph, his fingers tracing the contours of the woman's face. He could already feel that whatever they would discover tomorrow would not just unveil family secrets, but weave the fabric of their community closer together. As the group prepared to leave, an idea sparked in Mark's mind. What if we turn the stories we find into a diner event? An exhibition of our town's past? Excitement flared once again. The laughter and chatter resumed, filling the diner with a sense of possibility. Yet as Mark stepped out into the cool night air, he felt an unsettling chill brush against him, followed by that same whisper, almost as if the past was beckoning him closer. Tomorrow holds so much, he murmured to himself. He knew one thing for sure. The hunt for the truth about his grandmother, the diner, and the treasures it protected was just beginning. And he couldn't help but wonder what revelations awaited them. What secrets were lurking within the town as history, waiting to be awakened. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Mark woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside his window, their soft melodies rising and falling like whispered secrets from the trees. He sat up in bed, the photograph of the woman still fresh in his mind. It felt almost like a dream, but he knew that the adventure was just beginning. Hurrying through breakfast, he could hardly contain his excitement. His mom, noticing his restless energy, smiled knowingly. "Looks like someone has a big day ahead of him," she said as she poured him a cup of coffee. Mark just shrugged his shoulders, trying to play it cool, but inside, he was buzzing with anticipation. After a quick shower, he grabbed his jacket and the photograph, carefully placing it in his pocket before heading out. The diner soon came into view, drenched in morning light. Its bright red exterior gleamed, a timeless reminder of shared meals and laughter over countless cups of coffee. Today, it would be a gateway to discovery. Arriving at the diner, he found his friends gathered around the old booth, which now felt like a war room filled with determination. "All right, gang, ready to dig into our town's history?" he called out, and their faces lit up with eagerness. They split into teams as planned. Mark, with Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Williams, headed to the library, while the others prepared to knock on doors and talk to the residents. The library's musty scent welcomed them like an old friend. Rows of dusty books and yellowed newspapers surrounded them as they set to work. Mark felt the butterflies fluttering in his stomach every time he turned a page. He scanned the headlines, looking for anything that might connect to the diner or the woman in the photograph. After some digging, one article caught his eye. It was a small piece about a tragic fire that had struck the diner decades ago, but what really drew him in was the mention of a woman who had been a beloved waitress there, known for her warmth and kindness. Her name was Evelyn, and the article spoke of her unwavering spirit and resilience in dealing with loss. Mark's heart raced. "Guys, look at this," he shouted, summoning the others over. They crowded around him, squinting at the faded ink. "She sounds amazing," Mrs. Johnson said softly. "We need to find out more about her. She has written into our community as history." Mark couldn't help but agree. There was something about Evelyn that felt like a thread connecting the past and present. Just then, Mr. Williams pointed out the date of the fire. "It was just a few years before your grandmother passed away," he said, his brows furrowing as he absorbed the weight of the connection. Mark swallowed hard, a mixture of awe and trepidation washing over him. What if there was more to discover? He envisioned the woman in the photograph, her eyes holding untold stories, and her spirit woven tightly to his own family as history. Meanwhile, the other group returned, buzzing with information. "We talked to a woman named Ruth," one of the team members chimed in. "She remembers Evelyn. Says she was like family to everyone here." Excitement rippled among them, but just as the energy peaked, doubt crept back into Mark's mind. What if the truth about her is too painful? He wondered aloud. Everyone paused, considering the path ahead. But before they could linger on that thought, Mark's phone buzzed. He picked it up, his pulse quickening. It was a message from his mom. "I found something old in Grandma's attic. You need to see this." Mark shared the message with the group, flashes of curiosity and apprehension racing through them. What would they find there? Was it another piece of the puzzle? A nervous energy gathered around them, propelling them to rush out of the library. "Let us go!" Mark shouted, fueled by both trepidation and hope. They raced back, hearts thumping in their chests. The revelation of Evelyn was only the beginning. What awaited them in the attic might change everything. As they stepped into his house, whispers of the past hung in the air, almost tangible. Would they be ready for what lay ahead? The air was charged with possibility, and one question echoed in Mark's mind. What old secrets would the attic reveal? As Mark stepped into the house, the familiar scent of home wrapped around him, but today it felt different, charged with anticipation. The attic was always a place of mysteries, nooks and crannies, filled with remnants of lives past. The kids followed him up the creaking staircase, hearts racing like a drumbeat. Where exactly did she find it? Mrs. Johnson asked, brushing her hand against the wooden railing. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, and Mark felt the same excitement bubbling inside him. Right in the attic, she said, Mark replied, glancing back over his shoulder. The image of the photograph of Evelyn was still vivid in his mind, drawing him closer to uncovering her story. At the top of the stairs, his mom stood with a small, dusty box cradled in her arms, like a treasure chest. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but when I opened it, I thought of you, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Mark felt his pulse quicken. His fingers itched to touch the box, to see what lay within. Let us open it, one of his friends urged, leaning in. Mark could almost feel the collective breath held in the room as his mom slowly lifted the lid. Inside, they found an assortment of old letters, photographs, and trinkets wrapped in yellow tissue. Mark let out a small gasp. There were frayed edges, faded ink, but they were all echoes of a life lived, a connection he couldn't wait to explore. There's more, his mom said, lifting a particularly worn envelope. This one is addressed to your grandmother. It looks very old. The room seemed to hold its breath as she carefully opened the envelope, revealing a letter that had aged like fine wine. Mark's hands trembled as he reached for it. The moment felt sacred, as if the air crackled with the weight of history. What does it say? Someone whispered, eyes glued to the unfolding moment. His mom cleared her throat, her voice steadying as she read aloud. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, it means I've finally found the courage to share the truth. Every word that followed delved deeper into family mysteries, secrets wrapped in emotional honesty. Evelyn's name came up several times in the letter, along with stories of love, friendship, and loss. With every line, Mark felt more pieces of his life and family snap into place. Mrs. Johnson wiped a tear from her eye. Evelyn was more than just a waitress, she was family, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Mark could almost hear the heartbeat of the diner echoing in that attic, the laughter and warmth that once filled those walls. But as the letter unfolded, a shadow flickered across Mark's mind. Mom, what else is there? He asked, feeling a knot form in his stomach. She hinted at something important. His mom paused and glanced back down into the box, confusion beginning to wash over her face. There's one more letter, she hesitated, her fingers brushing over objects in the box, as if searching for an escape from the weight of their discovery. Can we see it? Mark urged, feeling the urgency spike in the air. The treasure of the past felt less like a relic and more like a lifeline to his family's story. His mom took a deep breath and pulled out a larger, more ornate envelope. This one feels different. Her voice trembled slightly, heightening Mark's curiosity sharper than ever. As she opened it, the atmosphere shifted. It felt like they were crossing an invisible threshold. Here we go, she said, eyes widening. The destiny of not just Mark, but the entire family, hung in the balance. But before she could read it, the attic door creaked open, startling everyone. It was Mr. Williams, his face pale. You guys have to see this, he exclaimed, a sudden urgency in his tone. Mark's mind raced. What more could they find? What new layer would this lead to? And were they ready for the truth that was unraveling before them? His heart pounded with both excitement and fear. The past was revealing itself, but at what cost? As the group exchanged glances, a whirlwind of emotions cascaded around them, leaving one haunting question in the air. Could they handle everything that was about to come to light? Inside the attic, the tension hung thick, pulsing with every heartbeat. Mr. Williams's urgency cut through it all, snapping Mark and the others from their moment. "What is going on?" Mark asked, his excitement blocking out the next worry looming in his mind. "It's the old scrolls. They went to the town's archives and found some documents linked to Evelyn," Mr. Williams replied breathlessly. His eyes sparkled with discovery. "You need to see this." Mark felt a rush of adrenaline surge through him. This was it. This was why they had embarked on this journey. With one movement, the group gravitated toward Mr. Williams, their hearts racing with pure anticipation. Within moments, they piled into the living room, eager eyes fixed on the documents Mr. Williams had spread across the wooden table. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating faded ink and old paper, transforming it into a treasure trove of history. "Look at these," he said, pointing excitedly. "They show connections to Evelyn S. family, their role in the community," and his voice quavered, the reverence for what they were about to uncover palpable. "And they may reveal where the riches were hidden." Mark leaned forward, fired up. "Riches? Not just money. This is about heritage, legacies that go beyond coins. Evelyn was admired for weaving the town together, and it looks like there is something significant tied to her family history." As Mrs. Johnson sifted through the papers, her breath caught. This is about the new community center," she said, glancing around. Mark's heart raced. "Community center? What does that mean for us?" Her voice trembled with emotion. It could mean reviving her vision, creating a true gathering place. She wanted this diner to serve as more than just meals. She wanted it to be a heart for everyone. The idea sank in. Each paper, each letter wasn't just an echo of the past. It was a blueprint for what they could build together, igniting butterflies in their hearts. "I think we can honor her legacy," Mark said, determination fern-like in his heart. "We can hold events, share stories, and make this diner once again the center of the community while incorporating Evelyn S. spirit." Amidst tears and smiles, the room resonated with agreement. True transformation wasn't solely about the foundations of a diner anymore. It was shown in reconnecting hearts, reviving spirits, and creating something lasting. "But we have to act fast," Mr. Williams said, glancing at the fading sunlight outside. "There's so much anticipation in town. We need to gather everyone together. We could host a celebration, share our findings, and honor her together." "Yes! A festival!" Mrs. Johnson exclaimed, bursting with excitement. "We'll call it Evelyn S. Day. It's about family and community." Elation spread through the group like wildfire fueled by purpose. Mark felt that fire, the warmth of unity, brewing within. As they quickly whipped up plans, excitement washed away all remnants of fear. Minutes turned into hours as they laid out the framework for Evelyn S. Day. They decided to share stories, highlight the past connections, and unveil the box of treasures they had unearthed. But even as the warmth filled the air, a hint of doubt remained. Mark recalled the whispers that had followed him. Would the town embrace their ideas? Would others consider their celebration a threat instead of a gathering? "Everyone will be a part of it," Mrs. Johnson assured him. "The gift of community is that it thrives in togetherness." And so, as evening descended on the diner, they gathered over dinner, recounting dreams while laughter sprinkled the air. The diner was back alive, its heartbeat raising along with theirs, as they set their sight on their mission, unveiling not just the hidden treasure, but their legacy. On the day of the festival, the streets filled with familiar faces. Old friends, past patrons, laughing children, it was a tapestry of the town's story woven together. Every beam of light reflected joy. As Mark approached the podium, he felt a flutter of nerves crisscrossing his stomach. But then he remembered Evelyn's spirit. It wasn't just about sharing their passage, but inspiration and connection. "Welcome everyone to Evelyn's Day," he called, voice steady and clear. Cheers erupted. "Let us celebrate our past, our present, and the possibilities to come." Cheers of agreement echoed. The diner's walls seemed to smile once more, becoming a cradle for laughter, stories, and the beloved recollections they had collectively forged over decades. A month later, Mark found himself standing just outside the diner, watching the sunset glint across his parents' proud faces, the heart of the diner pulsing with warmth. He knew now that treasures weren't measured just in riches sought, they were found in love, connection, and community entwined in chair-squeaking laughter. As the first stars twinkled overhead, Mark grinned, knowing the legacy of the diner had been reclaimed, an eternal bond of family, class, friendship, and compassion that would echo for generations to come. And at that moment, he felt the past whispering, "This is just the beginning." If you felt the magic of this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and help us bring future stories to life. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let's keep this incredible journey alive together.